Yo, what's good? You dub back here again. This time, was this the first video of 2020? Uh, I hope everybody's having a great new year thus far. I tell people I let just like a presidency. I told a homie, uh, just like a presidency or a sports season. I let year go on before I judge it for a little while. But in this video, y'all see the title. For those of you, if you're new to the channel, if you've never seen any of my Unfiltered series, I believe I have a playlist. I believe so. On the channel, you can go check that out. In Unfiltered, it's raw, keeping it 1,000, 100% uncut, as the name suggests, unfiltered. We go all the way balls deep, all the way into something. We're not pulling punches here. We're having an honest dialogue and discussion. And yes, if you agree with me, by all means let me know. And if you disagree, if you think I'm mistaken at some points, you can do that. This is a free speech platform, unlike a lot of channels who people don't give a damn and they don't want to listen to opposing viewpoints. Now, this video goes all the way back to the 60s as far as content. And you can go before then, and I will allude to before then, but it really spiked with the 60s, okay? And then it has avalanched and snowballed to the point that we're at. But what really caused it, I've talked with from my pops to various people, older, younger, my age, you name it, a lot of my peers about this. Okay, especially with black folks, especially with black men, because that is who is impacted the most by this agenda, this gay agenda. Um, there's a lot that's to unpack, but recently I've heard DJ Vlad on Vlad TV on YouTube, Boosie, the rapper, Boosie Badass, and oh, I forget, it was another comedian. He talked for those who saw the interview, talked about Phase on Love and a whole bunch of cats. He's a comedian, and they talked about whether it be gay agenda and the target towards children's cartoons. When it comes to Boosie, the comedian spoke on gay mafia, shutting people down and stuff. And so let's talk about this, okay? No one, and I mean no one, who's of any kind of sense, who has any kind of humanity, is hating on gay folks. 2019, if anything taught us, that's the truth. All right, 2020. Nobody's doing that, bro. We're all saying, listen, at the end of the day, regardless of what your views are, okay? Regardless of how you feel towards the different types of sexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality, lesbianism, um, when it comes to, transsexual, transgender, pansexual, asexual, queer, whatever your thing is, you, at the end of the day, have the freedom of choice. As long as you ain't raping, sexual molestation, sexual assault, none of that foolishness. Two consenting adults, that's your choice. Nobody has a problem with that. We may disagree, some may disagree, but no one has a problem with that. No one's really had a problem with that for a long time. Now you say, oh, but what about discrimination? I'm a black man in America. Don't get on saying folk out here don't understand prejudice and discrimination. Shit's real out here. Not saying that there isn't a systemic discriminatory practice. I don't say that there isn't personal discriminatory practice. But as far as in culturally, it's very well accepted at this point. And to say it's not accepted is just being completely disingenuous, considering how many celebrities, how many entertainers, how many athletes have been gay, how many politicians. So don't say you're being held back. Plenty of businessmen. Don't say you're being held back in that regard. Again, if there's a systemic oppression, then let's address that. But as far as in opportunities, they are present. Now, I'm not saying that it's a perfect system. No, once again, systemic issues. As a black man, we'll agree with that. There are a plethora of things. Women deal with shit. Everybody's dealing with shit. Men's dealing with shit. Everybody is screwed over in the system. I wish everybody would just unify and realize the truth. People sense it. But too many are not seeing the true nature of it. It is a whole system that needs to be torn down and reconstructed, to say the very least, or replaced. All right. But what are we talking about when we talk about the gay agenda? Now, let's date all the way back to the 1950s. And yes, this past year, I was doing even further research on the Stonewall riots. I read a book. It was during Gay Pride, during Pride. I believe it was in July. Believe it was in July where I live this time of year. But anyways, so it was talking about before the Stonewall riots, during the Stonewall riots, and a little bit after Stonewall riots. It was a good book. It was pro for what happened, but it was being honest. And I love honest objectivity. Even if you have a persuasion, be honest. Don't lie. And that's a great policy to understand if you ever writing an argumentative essay, for example, or presenting a speech or whatever. Learn to argue both positions or know both positions if you ever go into debate, so you can also refute false claims that are said against you. Okay, especially if they're straw man arguments, any type of logical fallacies, you can go against that position and be willing to understand that some of your preconceived notions may be wrong, and you may learn something. So keep that in mind. So we go back to the 1950s briefly. And in the 1950s, much as we see today, I wish people would understand this with the gay community. Let's start there before we get into the amalgamation of what happened with the LGBT community and LGBTQ and LGBTQA. Understand how the foundation of what happened. And I'm specifically talking about the community, and then I'm going to get to the agenda. And it was some very sinister stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people who were advocates did not realize what was going down. Now, it's me who studies the history of the original hippies, studies various movements. This is what always is done by the powers that be in the elites. They use any type of movement, they either shut it down, they assassinate leaders, or they mire it in the media. In the third way is that they use it to their own advantage. They use a culture or subculture to their own advantage. And we'll get to hip hop and stuff later on down when it became a gay agenda. So, with the 1950s, there was a very elitist group of homosexuals, okay? There were. You can go back, I'm not disparaging, this is honest, that were discriminating against their own kind. There's a term in the transgender community called passability. And a dude, I believe he was a gay dude out here. Well, a couple guys, and they taught me is can you pass for the other sex? Well, in this case, with the homosexual elite, if you will, they were trying to pass for regular men, just regular mainstream dudes. Okay, they didn't want anyone to rock the boat because at that time you outed, it's bad. It's bad for business and it's bad for your career. Okay. So different transgendered folks, different Butch Dyke folks, different more flamers, if you talk about different guys who were different, both males and females who kind of rocked the boat, they weren't too cool with. They're like, listen, let's keep it in the closet, if you will. Let's keep it in our own hush hush little bourgeois groups. The problem that you had was the marginalized ones were like, bro, what about us? We're gay, we're lesbian, we're trans, we're bi, and we get no love, especially amongst the youth. You see, Stonewall riots and different stuff was mainly a youth movement. And sometimes there were straight allies, you can say, but I'm not going to rehash the whole history with the Stonewall. You can go on your own. But pretty much people wanted community and a place to congregate. And I think we can all uh, understand and relate to that. Again, you don't have to agree. You don't even have to agree with the actions. In fact, there was infighting amongst gays, lesbians, and different ones of what popped off. But you can only suppress freedom for so long before violence or unrest develops. And it was the policia who incited most of it, but then there were other individuals, so blah blah blah. You get their gay rights movement, and people are like, listen, bro, we want civil rights. Now, the one thing I will say and this is what pisses off a lot of black folks, for example, myself included, is don't compare gay rights movement to the civil rights movement. Don't to the black struggle. Don't do it. It's a wholly different struggle, and you can't hide your gayness. I mean, you can hide your gayness. I can't hide my skin. So don't do that. Don't do that. Say you got your own struggle. We all Gucci. Don't be out here be one of them ignorant folks saying it's the same thing. And if you an ally of it, don't be saying it's the same thing because it's not. Y'all want out here getting motherfucking lynched. All right. Y'all didn't deal with a bunch of slavery and a bunch of these open discriminatory practices. A lot of gay dudes were successful in Hollywood and such on the low. Just saying. Okay, let's stop. Were there some horrible situations? Absolutely, but every group of people have had horrible situations on the face of the planet. That's just facts. Take it up with history. Anyways, we move on. Then you started seeing the androgynous nature in entertainment. All right. Now I'm gonna stop. I started out with that. Okay. Table that discussion because we're gonna get back to the LGBTQ community as is today. But keep in mind where the origin and what they dealt with back then. Because I'm gonna get y'all in on a little secret. Ain't shit changed. So ain't shit changed. And I'll explain why after we now transition over to the beginning of the gay agenda. So, in a little bit of a parallel. For those of you who are ignorant on the original hippies, what happened with the original hippies is there were a few. Okay, you had some artists and a few other folk. Then you had massive youth. The masses of youth come in who didn't understand the philosophy, who weren't really living the lifestyle. You had some, get stoned out of their mind and stuff. Free love and didn't understand what the hippies were about. Also, you had the CIA come in, infest and infiltrate and pretty much kill things. Then there was a bunch of media attention and boom, boom, flashing cameras and look at the hippies, they're so horrible. Bump that noise. Another topic for another discussion. So that's how they used to destroy. The same thing with the civil rights movement. They tried to make it look all kind of different stuff. History tells us it wasn't wrong. With the gay rights, on the other hand, they're like, look, they're not so much of a threat. They will destroy you. The powers that be, the elites will destroy you if they view you as a threat. We're going to masquerade and infiltrate. Also, there were some dudes who were already in positions of power who were on the low. For example, J. Edgar Hoover was bisexual. Okay? So they're like, all right, so we're going to manipulate behind the scenes, get certain individuals in positions of power, grant them power, and have them play this game. They did that in the music industry. They did that in the fashion industry. They did that in these very public cultural stuff. And then they did that in the film industry, okay, in cinema in Hollywood, to where there was starting to push androgynous nature of things. They were starting, and this isn't, some can say, "Woo, I'm being representation." No, this was not representation of homosexuals, of lesbian, of gays, lesbians, bis, trans. Not this was not representation. This was exploitation. Like there was a black exploitation, this was exploitation. You got it to where now guys like David Bowie and Prince, but they were like, "Ooh, let's push that." Mick Jagger started to show this androgynous nature. Eventually, long story short, you see it started and it known stuff in the 90s. Ooh, hip hop's becoming a thing. Let's do it with them like we did it with the various rock stars. And they started pushing shit to the point that you see it today. Now, am I opposed to gay, lesbians, and whoever else in music? Absolutely not. I have no problem with that. But look at what the mainstream media pushes. When you have so many other phenomenal ones, look what they pushed. When Macklemore dropped that gay love, love is love kind of track, look how they pushed it. My favorite song, like the song I really rock with by Katy Perry. I'm not a fan of hers. She has a lot of talent, but in the video for Firework, all of a sudden in one frame, this frame that sticks out to me the most, besides the Katy Perry frames, was they just all of a sudden had two guys kissing out of nowhere. Like literally, it was no setup. It was like bam, and so they did that. When it comes to children, how do we get them to accept and to control? You start with the minds of the children. That's how it's always been. Okay, I could go through subjects on race. I could go through subjects on the Nazis tried it with the Nazi youth. You can go throughout history, and so they target cartoons. They start showing. When I was a kid, you didn't even like. Even soap operas were loosey goosey when it comes to with sex. Like there was not really a like openly sexualized stuff. Occasionally, you might have two characters kiss, maybe. We didn't even really cartoons didn't even really touch on sex. There was, PG kind of thing. Even PG-13 was, you usually had to go to R-rated stuff to really get into sexual matters. That got peeled back as time went on. And bombarding images towards children, except because they know adults are already making up their mind. And then they not only got into the mainstream media, they got into academia and they got into changing on what a mental disorder was. Okay, they got changing on all kind of things, for good or bad. Whether you agree or disagree on that, this is what was historically what they did. And so they pushed it. Now, you can say, well, yay, gays, and yeah, they're just people who just so happen to like a certain sexuality, whatever. Same thing with lesbians, bisexuals, okay. Trans is a whole other thing that we can discuss at another point. But it's a known thing called gender dysphoria. They're trying to normalize it. Hell, some of them are trying to normalize. I keep hearing from different folks they're trying to normalize pedophilia. You see, it's not liberation, it's manipulation. It's to say this is the behaviors. Just we're gonna bombard you. It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. And they're using you in order to get some more sick, sinister stuff down the line, like pedophilia. People say, oh, it's a slippery slope argument. No, we saw behind the curtain. You've had reports. Plenty have come out and say that there rape to men and women. There's this molestation, the what people are calling grooming of children in Hollywood. Like there's some sick and sinister stuff going down the line, and they're just trying to ease people's minds towards certain stuff. Now, come back to 2019, last year, 2018, 2019. Do you know that in a monolith, that's what they want you, this hyper radicalized group. If you got to listen to us, you got to listen to, we're not going to listen to anybody. This is the way everybody views it. A lot of gays, bis, lesbians, trans folk, queers, they don't agree with the party line of the LGBTQ community. They're not a part of it. Openly, here on YouTube and other comment sections, people like Blair White have openly come out and said, we don't even agree with this mess, bro. Because we're individuals. Yes, we happen to live a certain lifestyle. Yes, we happen to like who we like. But that has nothing to do with the policies that they're pushing. And that's when we're talking about the gay agenda. They're pushing policies that are not beneficial to anybody. I don't care about your sexuality or sexual orientation. They're trying to teach children and guide them a certain way. They're breaking down families. Okay? Breaking down the state of marriage. Divorce rates are on a high. Abortions were raped. All of this you can trace back to things like the gay agenda. And there's more to it than that. But this was a method that was used. Make men effeminate and weak. Fuck masculinity. 2 middle fingers to that. Okay? This is what's going on out here. And we get into 2019 to where those who should be part of the community are being ostracized. Because that's how it always has been. It's the powerful elite doing what they've always done. It shouldn't be a shocker that we're here and nobody understands. A lot of gays, bis, and lesbians are like, we don't understand trans either. The same as you could had, oh, you straight, you're being biased. No, a lot of people are saying the same things on the low and in personal conversations. We don't understand. You have a lot of trans folk are like, bro, we don't even agree with half the shit y'all are talking about. It's madness and chaos because understand something about chaos. Chaos is formed, it doesn't naturally happen. Nature goes towards order, it doesn't go towards chaos. Now, there's a way that the guise of order is hijacked. The state of order is hijacked in the name of order, in the name of anything, which is again another conversation for another time. You can allude a little bit to what I did talked about in my last episode dealing with fascism. Um, the thing is, the gay agenda, in brief, is an agenda to undermine culture, societal, social institutions. Okay, the church, family, home, marriage. Uh, if you want to say governmental positions, cultural positions, and even though I'm an anarchist, I recognize the social institutions that are government. It's just the nature of the beast that comes along with the system. Hijack everything, twist it, and manipulate, divide groups, and that's what they're doing. Promoting stuff, uh, getting people up in arms, getting people not to pay attention to what really is going on out here. A bunch of misdirection, a bunch of subversion. And that's what's going on. That's what the gay agenda is. And when I said it was targeted mainly towards black folks, especially black men, that's what they do. Okay? Because they want the breakup of the black home. They want the breakup of where a bunch of single parent homes. Why? Because it's easier to control. When you don't have a united family, it's easy to have people at odds with each other. It's easy to have people docile and not a threat to your power. And that's what, again, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about power control. It's not about liberation. Again, we're not saying we hate gays on this channel. We're not saying we hate lesbians. I have friends of all, right? But what I'm saying is there's a very sinister and sick conspiracy that's been going on for damn near 5 decades, and it's coming to a head. Finally, people are starting to wise up to what's been going on. What a lot of us before me, myself, and probably after me is going to be talking about. Hopefully, it'll be dead by the time if I ever have children, their generation, they don't have to deal with this foolishness because it just is really bad, and it goes along with people talking about cancel culture. And you can't make jokes about a group of people when everybody else can have jokes. Stop. You cannot control free speech. It's wrong. As long as it's not hate speech, and there is a difference between hate speech and free speech. But you know, again, whole number topic for a whole nother day. Unexpected wonder, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts. If you think I was wrong, please let me know. But I can back up everything I said from a historical narrative. And honestly, if you listen to what I'm saying, where can you say I was wrong? I'm saying that the gay agenda is hurting everybody, starting with gay folks and lesbians and you name it, because it's not promoting acceptance. It's doing the exact opposite. You're saying that things are normal, quote unquote normal, but then you're constantly shoving it down our face, up our ass, and everything else. Indoctrination is normal. How does that work? Getting people pissed off? That is a great way to not listening to what another person has to say is a great way of getting acceptance. No, because the gay agenda is not about acceptance. It's not about tolerance. It's about you are forced to agree with us, and if you don't, you're fucked. That's what it's about. And without going on and making this a 2-hour discussion. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Stay safe out there. Happy New Year's, and yeah, till next time, y'all. Peace.